The settlement of New Hope sat under a purple sky on the surface of Kepler 442b, humanity's first colony beyond Earth. 300 families had made this world their home, and today they celebrated 6 months of successful survival on an alien planet. Children ran through the biodomes, their laughter echoing off the transparent walls that kept out the thin atmosphere outside. Captain Andrew Blake stood on the observation platform and watched the festivities below. His ship, the Horizon, had brought these families here 3 months ago. Now it sat in orbit, a silent guardian over the growing colony. Andrew felt pride as he watched the community his ship had helped establish. Fathers grilled food on electric cookers, mothers chatted while keeping eyes on their playing children. Teenagers kicked a ball across the artificial grass of the main dome. Dr. Lisa Morgan sat with a group of other parents near the playground. Her 7-year-old son ran past, chasing after Sophie Martinez and 2 other children. Lisa smiled and waved. Her son waved back before disappearing around the corner of a storage building. She turned back to her conversation, discussing plans to expand the medical facility. Daniel Carter walked the perimeter of the settlement, his security tablet showing green lights across all sectors. Everything looked normal. His daughter played with a group of kids near the community center. He could see her bright red jacket among the crowd. The colony had been peaceful since they arrived. No hostile wildlife, no technical disasters, no problems at all. Daniel started to relax for the first time in months. In orbit above the planet, something changed. Space twisted, and 4 ships appeared where there had been nothing moments before. They were dark, angular vessels that matched no known design in the Galactic Council database. The Horizon's sensors picked them up immediately. Andrew received the alert on his communicator. He looked up at the sky, but the alien ships were too high to see with the naked eye. His heart began to race. He opened the communication channel to the settlement security office. Daniel Carter answered immediately. "I see them, Captain," Daniel said, his voice tight. 4 unknown vessels in high orbit. They're not responding to hails. Andrew started running toward the command center. Other adults noticed his urgency and began gathering their children. The happy atmosphere of the celebration changed in seconds. Parents called out names. Children stopped playing and ran to their families. Then the beams came down. Columns of blue light descended from the sky, touching down throughout the settlement. They made no sound. They produced no heat. But wherever they touched, children vanished. One moment Sophie Martinez stood next to her mother, and the next moment she simply dissolved into particles of light and was gone. Lisa Morgan screamed. She ran toward where her son had been playing, but the area was empty. His toy truck lay on the ground, still running in circles with no one to control it. She fell to her knees and grabbed the toy, calling her son's name over and over. Daniel Carter sprinted toward the community center where he had last seen his daughter. Her red jacket lay crumpled on the ground. The children around her were gone too. He picked up the jacket and looked at the sky, rage and fear mixing in his chest. All across the settlement, parents discovered the same horror. The beams of light had been precise and selective. They took every child under the age of 12. They left teenagers and adults untouched. In less than 2 minutes, 147 children vanished without a trace. The alien ships in orbit began to move. Andrew reached the command center and pulled up the tracking display. The vessels were accelerating away from the planet, building up energy for a hyperspace jump. He ordered the Horizon to pursue, but his ship was still in parking orbit, its engines cold. By the time the Horizon could build thrust, the alien ships flickered and disappeared into hyperspace. Andrew slammed his fist on the console. He immediately sent emergency transmissions in every direction. One went to Earth, others went to the nearest Galactic Council stations. He broadcast on all frequencies, describing what happened and asking for help tracking the alien vessels. The settlement descended into chaos. Parents searched every building, every storage container, every corner of the colony, They found nothing. The children were simply gone. Security footage showed the beams of light, showed the children dissolving, and then showed nothing but empty spaces. Lisa Morgan refused to leave the spot where her son had disappeared. Other parents joined her, sitting in silence or crying. Some prayed, others cursed. Daniel Carter organized search teams anyway, even though everyone knew the children were not hiding somewhere in the colony. They needed to do something, anything, rather than stand still. Commander Gregory Walsh sat in the human embassy on Council Station Alpha, 100 light-years away. He received Andrew's transmission and immediately requested an emergency meeting with the Council representatives. He brought the footage, the sensor data, everything they had collected about the attack. The Council chamber filled slowly. Alien representatives arrived and took their seats. Walsh played the footage of the abductions. He showed them the tracking data from the unknown ships. He demanded that the Council help identify and pursue the attackers. The response horrified him. The Threll ambassador, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms, suggested that the children might have simply wandered away from the settlement. Walsh showed him the footage again. The Threll shrugged and said human technology was new and perhaps unreliable. The Vexian representative, a reptilian creature with cold eyes, stated that the Council had no jurisdiction over internal matters of member species. If humanity could not protect its own colonies, perhaps humanity was not ready for space travel. Walsh argued for 2 hours. He pleaded, he presented evidence, he demanded action. The Council refused to authorize any search or rescue operation. They called it a tragedy, but said the galaxy was large and dangerous. Young species needed to learn to defend themselves. The Krell ambassador actually laughed when Walsh mentioned the number of missing children. "Only 147? The ambassador said. "You are fortunate it was not more. Guard your young better next time." Walsh sent his report to Earth. He transmitted the Council's responses word for word. He included the Krell ambassador's laughter in the audio file. On Earth, the transmission arrived at midnight Greenwich Mean Time. It went simultaneously to the United Nations, the Earth Defense Command, and every major government. Within an hour, emergency meetings convened in a dozen capitals. Admiral Kevin Ross stood in the Pentagon War Room, watching the footage from New Hope. He had grandchildren the same age as those missing kids. His hands shook as he gripped the edge of the tactical display. Around him, generals and admirals from every nation watched in silence. The footage played again. Children dissolving into light, parents screaming, empty playgrounds. The Secretary General of the United Nations appeared on the main screen. Her face was pale, but her voice was steady. She asked Admiral Ross a direct question. "Can we find them?" Ross nodded slowly. "We will find them. We will bring them home. And whoever took them will learn what happens when you touch human children." The Secretary General paused, then spoke again. "You have authorization for Protocol Nightfall. Use whatever resources you need. Bring our children home." Ross turned to his staff. "Wake up every shipyard. Convert every factory. Recall every ship. We're going to war." Across Earth, the response began. Military bases that had been downsizing since humanity joined the Galactic Council suddenly reversed course. Shipyards that built cargo vessels received new blueprints for warships. Factories switched from consumer goods to weapons production. Research facilities opened locked files containing weapons designed but never built. Too aggressive for a peaceful species joining a civilized galaxy. Humanity had tried to be good neighbors in space. They had followed Council rules, respected territorial boundaries, and sought peaceful cooperation. But the galaxy had just stolen their children. Now Earth would show the universe what humans became when their young were threatened. The galaxy would learn that there were things worse than war. There was the fury of parents who had nothing left to lose. 2 weeks after the abductions, Admiral Kevin Ross stood in Earth's military command center and watched the transformation of his species. Every screen showed the same story. Orbital shipyards worked around the clock. Factory lines that once produced civilian vehicles now manufactured combat drones. Universities had emptied their physics departments to weapons research facilities. Lieutenant Nicole Harper entered the command center carrying a data pad. She was young for her rank, only 28, but she had a gift for understanding alien cultures. Ross had pulled her from intelligence analysis to head the investigation into who took the children. "We have a name, sir," Nicole said. She projected a hologram into the center of the room. It showed a region of space beyond Council territory, marked with red symbols. The Zelthrin Collective. They're a slave trading cartel that operates outside galactic law. Ross studied the map. "How certain are we?" 95%. We intercepted communications from a cargo hauler that passed through the New Hope system around the time of the abductions. The crew was bragging about a big payday. They mentioned Zelthrin buyers looking for exotic specimens. A general stepped forward, anger visible on his face. "Specimens? They're talking about children." Nicole nodded grimly. "The Zelthrin specialize in taking young from newly spacefaring species. They know these species lack the military power to retaliate. They've done this to at least 12 other civilizations over the past century." Ross felt cold rage settle into his bones. "And the Council knows about this?" "They know. Several minor species filed complaints. All were dismissed due to lack of jurisdiction. The Zelthrin stay outside Council space, so the Council claims it cannot act." "Cannot or will not?" Nicole met his eyes. "Will not, sir. It's easier to ignore crimes against the weak." The door opened, and a rough-looking man entered the command center. Jack Sullivan walked with the confident stride of someone who had fought in 100 bars across a dozen worlds. He wore a battered jacket and had scars on his face. Ross had hired him specifically because Sullivan knew the dark corners of the galaxy that respectable people avoided. "Admiral," Sullivan said with a casual salute, "I've got locations for you. 3 Zelthrin processing stations and 1 major trading hub. That's where they'll be sorting the kids, deciding who to sell them to." "How did you get this information?" Ross asked. Sullivan smiled without humor. "I know people who know people. Cost Earth a fortune in bribes, but I got what you need. Coordinates, security details, shift rotations. Everything." Ross turned to his tactical officer. "Maria Santos, how fast can we get battle groups to these locations?" Commander Maria Santos pulled up a navigation chart. She was calculating jump routes, fuel requirements, and timing. "If we push the engines, 4 days to the nearest station, maybe 6 to reach the trading hub." "Make it happen. I want overwhelming force at each location. We hit them all simultaneously." A communication alert sounded. Ambassador Lucia Grant appeared on screen from the Galactic Council station. She looked exhausted and angry. Behind her, the council chambers were visible, filled with arguing aliens. "Admiral, I need to report on today's council session," Lucia said. Her voice was tight with barely controlled fury. "I presented evidence of the Zelthrin operation. I showed them the intercepted communications. I demanded they assist in recovering our children." "Let me guess," Ross said. "They refused." "Worse than that," the Krell representative laughed again. "He said Earth should consider this a learning experience about the dangers of space. Several other representatives agreed. The Council voted against any intervention." The command center fell silent. Every officer present had children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews. They all understood what this meant. Earth stood alone. Lucia continued. "Sir, the Vexian ambassador made a threat. He said if Earth takes military action in their region of space, it will be considered an act of war against the Council. They're not going to help us, and they're threatening us if we help ourselves." Ross looked at the faces of his officers. He saw the same determination in every expression. He turned back to Lucia's image on the screen. Ambassador, please inform the Galactic Council that Earth acknowledges their position. Tell them we understand they will not assist in recovering our children, and tell them that we are coming anyway. If they want to stop us, they're welcome to try." Lucia smiled for the first time in days. "It will be my pleasure, Admiral." The connection ended. Ross began issuing orders. Ships moved into position. Marine battalions prepared for boarding actions. Intelligence teams finalized target packages. Earth's military machine, built over 2 centuries and carefully maintained, finally had a purpose. In orbit above Earth, the first wave of warships prepared to depart. These were not the exploration vessels or cargo haulers that humanity had been building for the past 3 years. These were destroyers, cruisers, and battleships designed when humanity still expected to fight wars among themselves. They had been mothballed when Earth joined the Council. Now they were back, with crews eager for revenge. Maya Foster sat in a dark room filled with computer screens. She was not military, but Ross had recruited her from the civilian hacking community. She was the best information broker on Earth, with contacts across the galaxy's digital networks. Her job was to find every piece of data about the Zelthrin operation. She cracked into shipping databases, financial networks, and private communications. She found payment records showing transactions between Zelthrin traders and wealthy aliens across Council space. She found inventories listing children from different species by age, appearance, and genetic traits. She found customer lists. The customer lists made her sick. Rich aliens from supposedly civilized worlds, buying children like they were paintings or exotic pets. Some wanted servants. Some wanted test subjects for genetic experiments. Some wanted living trophies to display their wealth and power. Maya sent everything to Ross. He forwarded it to Lucia at the Council. Let the galaxy see what their indifference had enabled. Deep in Zelthrin space, a trader named Vex examined his latest acquisitions. The human children sat in holding cells, scared and crying. Vex found their emotional displays annoying, but expected. All young species cried at first. They would learn to be quiet or face consequences. His communicator buzzed. A message came through from Zelthrin security. Human ships had been spotted entering their territory. Vex read the warning and laughed. Humans were so new to space. They barely had a fleet. What did they think they could do against the Zelthrin? He sent a reply saying he was not worried. Then he returned to cataloging his inventory. The human children would fetch excellent prices. Some buyers specifically requested specimens from Earth, curious about the new species in the galaxy. Vex did not know that 3 human battle groups were already burning toward his station at maximum speed. He did not know that human weapons had been tested and refined for centuries of Earth warfare. He did not know that humanity had rules of engagement for conflicts between nations, but those rules did not apply to aliens who stole children. Aboard the destroyer flagship, Captain Derek Matthews briefed his crew. They were 12 hours from the first Zelthrin station. Intelligence suggested 100 human children might be there, along with children from other species. "Our primary mission is rescue," Derek told his officers. "But understand this clearly. Anyone who stands between us and those children is a target. Anyone who tries to stop us is a target. Anyone who runs but has harmed a child is a target. We are not taking prisoners. We are not showing mercy. We are going to that station, we are getting those kids, and we are killing every Zelthrin we find." His crew responded with grim determination. Many had children of their own back on Earth. They understood exactly what this mission meant. The battle groups crossed into Zelthrin territory without slowing. Zelthrin patrol ships detected them and sent challenges. The human ships did not respond. They simply kept moving. A Zelthrin patrol captain, annoyed at being ignored, moved his ship to block the human advance. He powered up weapons and sent a final warning. The lead human destroyer opened fire without any communication. The Zelthrin ship exploded in a flash of white fire. Human ships pushed deeper into Zelthrin space. Every patrol that tried to stop them was destroyed. The human fleet left a trail of debris and bodies. They were not here to negotiate. They were not here to establish boundaries or make peace. They were here for the children. And everything else was just in the way. Admiral Ross watched the fleet's progress from Earth. Reports came in of the first encounters. Zelthrin ships destroyed. Human casualties, 0. The enemy had underestimated human weapons, human training, and human determination. Nicole Harper brought him updated intelligence. "Sir, we're intercepting panic communications from Zelthrin Command. They're trying to organize a defense, but they're confused. They thought we were a young species with limited military capability." Ross allowed himself a cold smile. They confused peaceful with weak. That was their mistake. The human fleet reached the first Zelthrin station. Captain Derek Matthews opened a communication channel that broadcast to every Zelthrin frequency. "This is Earth Defense Force. You are harboring human children taken by force from our colony. You have 1 hour to return them unharmed to our custody. If you comply, we will destroy your station, but allow your people to evacuate. If you resist, everyone dies. You have 1 hour. The Zelthrin station commander responded with arrogance, claiming humans had no authority in this region of space. Derek cut the communication and started a timer. The hour began to count down. The hour passed in silence. Captain Derek Matthews watched the countdown reach 0 on his display. The Zelthrin station had not released the children. They had not even responded to the ultimatum. They seemed to believe human threats were empty. Derek opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, weapons free. Target the station's defensive systems first, then proceed with boarding operations. Rules of engagement. Anyone armed is hostile. Anyone running from our forces is hostile. Rescue the children. Kill everything else." The human fleet opened fire. Missiles streaked across space, slamming into the station's shield generators. The Zelthrin had built their defenses to handle raids from rival cartels, not military assaults from a determined enemy. Their shields collapsed in minutes. Human destroyers moved closer, their main guns tearing into the station's hull. Explosions blossomed across the structure. Atmosphere vented into space. Zelthrin defenders tried to return fire, but their weapons were designed for intimidation, not war. Human point defense systems swatted down their missiles like insects. Rachel Kim stood in the Marine assault shuttle, checking her rifle one more time. She led a company of 200 Marines, all volunteers, all parents. Their mission was simple: board the station, find the children, bring them home. Everything else was acceptable collateral damage. The shuttle launched from the destroyer and raced toward the damaged station. 20 other shuttles flew alongside, carrying more Marines. Anti-ship fire reached out toward them, but human escort fighters darted ahead, destroying the Zelthrin gun positions. Rachel's shuttle punched through a breach in the station hull. The Marines poured out into a cargo bay filled with storage containers. Zelthrin workers scattered, some reaching for weapons. The Marines shot them without hesitation or mercy. "Section leaders, spread out," Rachel ordered. "Intelligence says holding cells are on levels 5 through 8. Move fast and stay together." The Marines split into teams and pushed deeper into the station. They moved with practiced efficiency, clearing rooms and corridors. Zelthrin defenders tried to organize resistance, but they were traitors and slavers, not soldiers. They had never faced an enemy that hit back this hard. Tyler Evans flew his fighter around the station's exterior, hunting for escape pods. His orders were clear: no one leaves. Some Zelthrin tried to flee in small craft. Tyler's weapons turned them into expanding clouds of debris. He felt nothing. These creatures had stolen children. They deserved no mercy. Inside the station, Rachel's team found the first holding cells. The doors were reinforced and locked. A Marine placed breaching charges and everyone stepped back. The explosion tore the door off its hinges. Human children huddled inside, terrified by the noise. They screamed when armed figures entered. Rachel pulled off her helmet so they could see her face. "It's okay. We're from Earth," she said, trying to make her voice gentle despite the adrenaline. "We're here to take you home. You're safe now." A little boy, maybe 6 years old, stared at her. "Are you real? Or is this another test?" Rachel felt her heart break. Tests. They had been experimenting on the children. She knelt down to his level. "I'm real. I'm a Marine. I'm someone's mom, just like your mom, and we're taking you home to her right now." The boy started crying and ran to her. Rachel picked him up and passed him to a medic. "Get them to the shuttle, now." The Marines found more cells, 30 human children in this section alone, in various states of fear and trauma. Some had been drugged, some had been hurt. All of them were immediately evacuated to the medical shuttles standing by. But they found something else, too. Other cells held children from different species, small aliens with scales, fur, or skin in colors not found on Earth. They cowered just like the human children, their large eyes filled with terror. Rachel made a decision. "We're taking them all. Every child on this station gets evacuated," one of her sergeants protested. "Ma'am, our orders are to recover human children. These aliens will slow us down." Rachel spun on him. "These are kids. Someone took them from their families just like ours. We're not leaving children behind because they're not human. Load them on the shuttles." The sergeant nodded and started organizing the expanded evacuation. Human Marines carried alien children who were too scared to walk. They wrapped them in thermal blankets and spoke to them in soft voices, even though the children could not understand the words. Deeper in the station, another Marine team found the processing center. This was where the Zelthrin cataloged their captives, recording genetic information and physical traits. The computers contained records of hundreds of children, spanning decades. The Marines downloaded everything before destroying the equipment. They also found Zelthrin overseers. The aliens tried to surrender, raising their multiple arms in submission. The Marines shot them anyway. There would be no trials here, no prisoners of war. Earth had come for justice, and justice was delivered in fire and bullets. Vex, the traitor who had laughed at human threats, crouched in his private quarters and listened to the sounds of his station dying. Explosions shook the structure. Human voices echoed through the corridors, calm and professional as they killed his people. He had hundreds of guards, but they were falling like wheat before a harvester. He tried to access his private shuttle, but a human fighter had already blown it apart. He tried to call for help from other Zelthrin stations, but communications were jammed. He was trapped with monsters who showed no fear and offered no mercy. His door exploded inward. Human Marines entered, their weapons tracking every corner. Vex backed against the wall, surrounded by the treasures he had collected over years of trading in stolen lives. Artwork from extinct species, genetic samples from rare creatures, and photos. So many photos of the children he had sold. Rachel Kim walked through the door and saw the photos covering one wall. Young faces from a dozen species, each one tagged with a price and buyer information. She felt cold certainty settle over her. Vex started talking quickly in broken Galactic standard. He tried to explain that he was just a businessman. He offered money, information, anything to spare his life. He said he could help them find the buyers, could return the children he had sold. Rachel shot him twice in the chest. She did not say a word. She simply pulled the trigger and watched him fall. Then she turned to her team. "Strip this room of all data. I want every file, every record, every name of every buyer. Then burn this place to the ground." The Marines worked quickly. They gathered evidence while the station shuddered under continued bombardment. Captain Derek Matthews had ordered no survivors among the Zelthrin. Every traitor, every guard, every collaborator was hunted down and killed. The evacuation shuttles launched, packed with rescued children. Medical teams immediately began treating their injuries. Human doctors worked alongside the young patients, while trauma counselors tried to provide comfort. The alien children received the same care as the human ones. Earth had decided, if the galaxy would not protect the innocent, then humanity would. 4 hours after the assault began, the Zelthran station was a burning wreck. Every Zelthran aboard was dead. Every child had been rescued. Human casualties were 12 wounded, none killed. Derek Matthews sat in his command chair and received reports from the other battle groups. The second Zelthran station had fallen with similar results. The third had tried to scatter its captives to different locations, but human intelligence tracked them all down. Across Zelthran space, the slave trade was dying in flames. Admiral Ross watched from Earth as data poured in. 3 stations destroyed, 219 children rescued, including 87 humans. The rest were aliens from 6 different species, some of whom had been missing for years. Nicole Harper analyzed the captured records. "Sir, we have a problem. These records show the Zelthran had buyers from council space. Wealthy individuals from multiple species purchased children over the years. This wasn't just the Zelthran operating alone. This was a network." Ross leaned back in his chair. "Give me names." "Hundreds of them, sir, including some very prominent individuals. There's even indication that certain council officials knew about the trade and received payments to look the other way." Ross called Ambassador Lucia Grant. When she appeared on screen, he spoke bluntly. "Ambassador, we have evidence that council species participated in the slave trade. We have financial records, communications, everything. I'm sending it to you now." Lucia read through the files, her expression growing darker. "Admiral, some of these names are council representatives, high-ranking officials. If I present this evidence, it's going to cause chaos." "Good," Ross said. "Present it. Let the whole galaxy see what their civilized council has been hiding. And Lucia? Tell them we're not done. We've destroyed the Zelthran stations, but now we're coming for the buyers, every single one." At the human colony on New Hope, Dr. Lisa Morgan waited in the medical center. Word had come that rescue shuttles were returning. Parents crowded the landing area, desperate for news. The first shuttle touched down and the door opened. Children emerged, wrapped in blankets, supported by Marines. Lisa searched every face, her heart pounding. Then she saw him. Her son walked down the ramp, held by a female Marine. He looked thinner and scared, but he was alive. Lisa ran forward, calling his name. Her son saw her and started crying. The Marine handed him over and Lisa held him tight, both of them sobbing. Around her, other parents reunited with their children. The landing area filled with tears, laughter, and relief. But not every parent found their child in the shuttles. Some families stood waiting long after the last child had emerged. Their young ones were still missing, sold to buyers scattered across the galaxy. These parents looked up at the sky, waiting for Earth to keep its promise, waiting for humanity to bring them all home. And Earth would keep that promise. The Zelthran stations were only the beginning. Admiral Ross had the names of every buyer, every collaborator, every being who profited from stolen children. Human ships were already plotting courses to their locations. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity protected its young with absolute determination, and anyone who harmed a child would face consequences that civilized species had forgotten were possible. The Zelthran civilization was shattered. Now it was time to shatter everyone else who thought stealing children was acceptable. Ambassador Lucia Grant stood before the Galactic Council Assembly and watched alien representatives squirm in their seats. Behind her, holographic displays showed financial records, communications, and testimony. Evidence of decades of slave trading, all ignored or enabled by council members. "High Counselor Thess of the Vexian hegemony," Lucia said, her voice cutting through the chamber like a blade. Your government authorized 7 payments to Zelthran traders over the past 10 years. Each payment corresponded to a shipment of children from newly contacted species. Would you care to explain? Thess, a tall reptilian being with scales that shimmered green and gold, rose from his seat. His voice carried the arrogance of someone who had never been challenged. Ambassador Grant, the Vexian government has many financial transactions across the galaxy. We cannot be expected to track every payment. If some of our citizens engaged in unfortunate business practices, that is regrettable, but not our responsibility. Lucia pressed a button. New images appeared, showing Thess himself meeting with known Zelthran leaders. These photos were taken on your personal estate. You met with these individuals 6 times. You knew exactly what they were doing. The chamber erupted in voices. Some species expressed shock, while others tried to shout Lucia down. The Krell representative stood and demanded that Earth be expelled from the Council for making such serious accusations. Lucia turned to face him. The Krell Dominion provided safe harbor for Zelthran ships in your territory. You allowed them to operate processing stations on 3 of your border worlds. We have the coordinates, the dates, and the names of your officials who took bribes to look the other way. The Krell representative's face darkened with anger, but he could not deny the evidence displayed for all to see. Other council members began looking at each other nervously, wondering if their names would appear next. On Earth, Captain Benjamin Cole received his orders. He would lead a task force into Vexian space to seize ships and facilities that had participated in the slave trade. His fleet consisted of 20 warships, enough to handle any resistance. They're going to fight back, his tactical officer warned. The Vexians have a strong military tradition. They won't surrender their assets without a battle. Cole looked at the manifest of targets: cargo vessels that had transported children, space stations that had processed them, warehouses where they had been held. Then we'll fight. But we're not leaving without those ships and facilities secured. The human fleet jumped into Vexian space and immediately began seizing targets. Cargo ships tried to flee, but human vessels were faster. Stations activated their defenses, but human weapons overwhelmed them. Within the first hour, Cole's forces had captured 6 vessels and 2 stations. The Vexian military responded. A fleet of 30 warships moved to intercept the humans. The Vexian admiral sent a message dripping with contempt. He spoke of his people's 1,000-year military tradition, their superior technology, and their determination to punish Earth's arrogance. Cole did not respond with words. He responded with weapons. The battle began at maximum range. Vexian ships fired in perfect formation, coordinated strikes that had won battles for centuries. Human ships scattered and attacked from unexpected angles. Vexian commanders struggled to track targets that refused to fight according to established doctrine. Human missiles found gaps in Vexian shields. Human railguns punched through Vexian armor. Human electronic warfare systems blinded Vexian sensors. The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it ended, the Vexian fleet was gone. 30 ships reduced to debris and radiation. Cole sent a message to the surviving Vexian stations. We are here for the facilities you used to support the Zelthran operation. Surrender them now or be destroyed. You have 10 minutes. The stations surrendered. Back on Earth, Dr. Lisa Morgan worked with the rescued children. The human kids were being treated for physical injuries and psychological trauma. Many had nightmares. Some refused to sleep alone. All of them flinched at unexpected sounds. But the alien children presented different challenges. Some required specialized medical care that human doctors had to research quickly. Some spoke languages no one on Earth understood. All of them needed to go home, but several came from species that were not council members. Earth had no diplomatic contact with their governments. Lisa contacted Admiral Ross. Sir, we have 43 alien children here. Their families must be desperate for them. We need to find a way to return them. Ross thought for a moment. Doctor, those children are leverage. Keep them safe and comfortable. But let it be known that we have them. Their governments will come to us. Within days, ships began arriving in Earth's orbit. Small delegations from minor species, governments that had no power in council space. They came begging for the return of their children. The Tyrellian Assembly sent their Prime Minister personally. She stood before Earth's leadership with tears in her eyes. Our children were taken 15 years ago. The Council told us they were lost. We had given up hope until we heard Earth was rescuing everyone. The Secretary-General of the United Nations met with her privately. We will return your children, and we want you to know that Earth will not forget what happened to them. The beings responsible will answer for their crimes. The Tyrellian Prime Minister grasped the Secretary-General's hands. Your species has been in space for only a few years, but you have more honor than civilizations that have existed for millennia. We will remember this. Other minor species reached out to Earth as well. They had all suffered under the Council's indifference. They had watched powerful species exploit the weak, while the Council did nothing. Now they saw humanity stand up to that same Council, and they wanted to help. Information began flowing to Earth from unexpected sources. Minor species shared intelligence about Council corruption, hidden agreements, and crimes that had been buried. Earth's knowledge of galactic politics expanded rapidly. Nicole Harper compiled the data. What she found horrified her. The slave trade was just one piece. Council species had been exploiting younger civilizations for centuries. They took resources, interfered in governments, and occasionally wiped out entire populations when convenient. The Council existed not to maintain peace, but to protect the powerful. She brought her report to Admiral Ross. Sir, the corruption goes deeper than we thought. Multiple Council species have engaged in what we would call war crimes. They just never faced consequences because they control the system. Ross read through the evidence. How many species are implicated? At least 15 major ones, including all 5 founding members of the Council. The system is rotten from the top down. Ross made a decision. Send everything to Ambassador Grant. It's time the galaxy sees what their Council really is. At the Council chambers, Lucia released the full evidence to the public networks. Every species with galactic communication access suddenly had proof of Council crimes: financial exploitation, territorial theft, sanctioned genocide. The carefully maintained image of the Council as guardians of civilization collapsed in hours. Riots broke out on Council worlds. Minor species demanded reform. Major species tried to suppress the information, but it was too late. The truth was spreading faster than they could contain it. The Council's military committee met in emergency session. They decided that Earth had gone too far. Human forces were operating across Council space without authorization. Human ambassadors were destroying diplomatic relationships that had stood for centuries. This could not be allowed to continue. 23 species contributed ships to a new Council fleet. It was the largest military force assembled in 300 years. The mission was simple: enter human space, force Earth to withdraw its forces, and restore Council authority. If Earth refused, the fleet would bombard Earth's orbital facilities until compliance was achieved. Admiral Ross received intelligence about the fleet 3 days before it arrived. He called his senior officers together. They're coming with everything they have. Over 3,000 ships. We can field maybe 800. Maria Santos pulled up tactical projections. Sir, we cannot win a straight fight against those numbers. They'll overwhelm our defenses. Ross smiled grimly. Then we won't fight a straight fight. We're going to make them regret coming to our system. Human ships began repositioning. Defensive satellites were activated. Weapons platforms that Earth had built but never revealed suddenly powered up in the asteroid belt. Kinetic bombardment systems came online. The entire solar system became a weapon. At the same time, human diplomats reached out to every minor species they had helped. The Council is coming to punish us for rescuing children. Stand with us or stand aside, but remember who came to your aid when the Council would not." Responses came quickly. The Tyrellian Assembly declared that their fleet would defend Earth. Other minor species did the same. They were small fleets, outdated ships, but they came anyway. 40 different species sent vessels to join Earth's defense. The Council fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system. Their commanders looked at the defending forces and laughed. A collection of obsolete ships and primitive human vessels. This would be a quick battle followed by swift negotiations. They did not know about the weapons hidden throughout the asteroid belt. They did not know about the kinetic bombardment systems or the electronic warfare satellites. They did not know that humans had spent 2 centuries preparing to fight each other and had weapons designed specifically for solar system defense. The Council fleet advanced. Admiral Ross waited until they crossed into the inner system. Then he gave the order. "All units weapons free. Show them what happens when they threaten Earth." The solar system erupted into war. But this time, humanity was not alone. And this time, the Council would learn that some species refused to bow to corrupt authority. Earth was about to teach the galaxy a lesson that would echo for generations. High above the planet, defense satellites locked onto Council ships. In the asteroid belt, kinetic weapons launched. Throughout the system, human forces and their new allies prepared to defend their home. The Council had come to force submission. They would find only defiance. The Council fleet entered the solar system in perfect formation, 3,000 ships arranged in battle groups that had defended Council space for centuries. Their commanders reviewed tactical data and felt confident. The defending forces looked disorganized, outnumbered, and outgunned. Admiral Kevin Ross watched them come from Earth's command center. His hands were steady as he issued orders to the scattered human and allied forces. "Wait for my signal. Let them get deep into the system. Let them think they're winning." The Council fleet advanced past the outer planets, past the asteroid belt, deeper toward Earth. They launched fighters and powered up weapons. Their admiral sent a final communication to Earth, demanding immediate surrender and withdrawal of all human forces from Council space. Ross ignored the message. Instead, he activated systems the Council did not know existed. Throughout the asteroid belt, rocks that appeared natural suddenly unfolded to reveal weapons platforms. Kinetic bombardment systems that had been disguised as mining equipment came online. Electronic warfare satellites began jamming Council communications. "All units, engage!" Ross ordered. The battle began with chaos. Kinetic projectiles launched from the asteroid belt. Simple chunks of metal accelerated to incredible speeds. They had no engines, no shields, nothing fancy, just mass and velocity. They punched through Council ships like paper, their shields useless against solid objects moving at orbital velocities. Council formations broke as ships tried to evade the bombardment. But the kinetic weapons were just the opening move. Human warships attacked from unexpected vectors, targeting the confused Council vessels. Fighters swarmed in, exploiting gaps in defensive fire. Captain Derek Matthews led his battle group against a Council formation of heavy cruisers. His ships moved fast, refusing to engage in the slow, methodical warfare the Council expected. They darted in, fired, and retreated before the enemy could coordinate a response. The Tyrellian and Allied vessels fought with desperate courage. Their ships were old and their weapons were weak, but they knew how to use asteroid fields and planet gravity wells. They lured Council ships into ambushes, used the terrain to their advantage, and supported the human forces with everything they had. Emma Price sat in Earth's Intelligence Center, monitoring communications across the battlefield. She was young, only 23, but her skills in data analysis had proven crucial. Now she listened to Council fleet communications and noticed something strange. "Admiral, the Council fleet is fragmenting. Some species are withdrawing from the battle. They're receiving new orders from their home governments." Ross pulled up the tactical display. Several council contingents had stopped fighting and were moving away from the engagement zone. "What's happening?" Emma brought up intercepted communications. "Sir, the information we released about council corruption has caused political chaos. Multiple governments are facing revolts. Some are ordering their fleets to return home to restore order. The council fleet is falling apart." On the council flagship, admirals from a dozen species argued. The Vexian commander demanded they continue the assault. The Threll admiral refused, saying his government had recalled his ships. The Krell representative tried to maintain unity, but it was too late. The carefully coordinated fleet was dissolving into competing interests, and humanity kept attacking. Human ships targeted the confused council forces without mercy. They had come to punish Earth for rescuing children. Now they were dying for that arrogance. But Ross knew this battle was not the real victory. The real victory was happening across the galaxy as minor species rose up against council authority, as populations demanded accountability, as the carefully maintained structure of galactic politics cracked under the weight of exposed corruption. After 6 hours of battle, the council fleet began a full retreat. They had lost over 800 ships. Human casualties were significant but manageable. The Allied forces had suffered heavily, but they had held. As council ships fled the solar system, Ross sent one final message. "You came to our home to force our submission. You failed. Now Earth is coming to yours. We will not stop until every child is returned and every guilty party has answered for their crimes. You can surrender or you can burn. The choice is yours." The council fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying with them the message and the memory of their defeat. News of the battle spread across the galaxy in hours. Earth, a species barely 4 years into galactic society, had defeated the combined military might of the council. But the war was not over. Human ships moved deep into council space, hunting the remaining buyers and collaborators. Captain Benjamin Cole led raids on worlds where wealthy aliens had purchased human and other species' children. His Marines stormed estates and compounds, recovering kids who had been treated as property. Some resisted. Cole showed them the same mercy they had shown to children. None. High Counselor Thess attempted to flee from his homeworld as riots consumed the capital. He boarded a private yacht with his wealth and staff. Human ships intercepted him before he could jump to hyperspace. Rachel Kim led the boarding team. They found Thess surrounded by luxuries purchased with blood money. He tried to negotiate, offering information and credits in exchange for his freedom. Rachel stunned him with her rifle and had him transported to Earth. He would stand trial, not as a dignified leader, but as a common criminal. The galaxy would watch as Earth held him accountable for his crimes. The trials began 6 weeks after the battle. Earth set up tribunals open to all galactic media. Former council officials, Zelthran traders, and buyers stood accused of crimes against children. The proceedings were fair but firm. Evidence was presented, witnesses testified, and verdicts were rendered. Some received death sentences. Others faced imprisonment. All were judged not by their power or status, but by their actions. The galaxy watched as Earth demonstrated that justice applied equally to everyone. Meanwhile, the rescued children continued to go home. Human medical teams treated them, counseled them, and prepared them for reunion with their families. Dr. Lisa Morgan coordinated the effort, making sure every child received the care they needed. Her own son was healing. He still had nightmares, but each day was better than the last. She held him each night and promised that no one would ever take him again. It was a promise Earth intended to keep. Ambassador Lucia Grant stood before the remnants of the Galactic Council. Many seats were empty, their former occupants either in prison or fled. She addressed the assembly with quiet authority. "The Galactic Council as you knew it is finished. It was built on exploitation and maintained through indifference to suffering. Earth will not participate in such a system. Instead, we propose something new, A true alliance of equals, with strict protections for younger species and absolute prohibitions on exploitation. Some species objected, clinging to the old order, but many others agreed. The minor species who had stood with Earth during the battle now had a voice. They demanded reform, and they had the backing of the only military that had defeated a council fleet. The new Galactic Assembly was formed over the following months. Earth was one of the founding members, along with the Tyrellian Assembly and 40 other species. They established laws protecting children of all species, banned slave trading throughout known space, and created enforcement mechanisms to ensure compliance. Any species that violated the new laws faced not diplomatic protests, but military intervention. Earth established the Child Protection Fleet, a dedicated force to patrol the galaxy and prevent future abductions. Other species were invited to contribute, but Earth made clear they would continue the mission with or without support. 1 year after the abductions at New Hope, the last human child was returned home. Parents who had waited in agony finally held their sons and daughters again. Not all the children came back whole. Some had been hurt too badly. Some had been changed by their experiences. But they were alive, and they were home. Admiral Ross stood on New Hope Colony once again. The settlement had been rebuilt and expanded. Children played in the biodomes under careful supervision. Parents watched with both joy and vigilance. The galaxy had learned a terrible lesson, but it had learned. A young girl ran past, laughing as she chased a ball. She was one of the rescued children, returned to her family after months in Zelthran captivity. She had spent weeks in counseling, but now she could play and laugh again. Ross watched her and felt something close to satisfaction. An aide approached him. "Sir, the Intelligence Division reports that illegal trading networks are still operating in some regions. Do we pursue?" Ross nodded slowly. "We pursue. We will always pursue. Humanity came to the stars hoping to find enlightened civilizations. We found predators and those who enabled them. So we became something else. We became the protectors." The aide hesitated. "Some species are calling us aggressive, sir. They say we've destabilized galactic politics and exceeded our authority." Ross looked at the children playing in the biodome. He thought about the empty beds and crying parents. He remembered the Zelthran stations and the Council's indifference. "Let them call us what they want. We did not come to the galaxy to make friends. We came to build a better future for our children. If that requires breaking corrupt systems and fighting those who harm the innocent, then that's exactly what we'll do." He turned to leave, then stopped and looked back at the aide. "Make sure our message is clear to everyone out there. Earth will protect children, human children, alien children, any child. We don't care about your politics or your power or your tradition. Touch a child, and we will find you. We will stop you, and we will make sure you never do it again." The aide nodded and left to transmit the message. Ross remained a moment longer, watching the children play. The galaxy had stolen humanity's young and believed they could escape consequences. They had learned otherwise. The Zelthran collective was extinct, their stations destroyed, their traders dead. The Galactic Council was reformed, its corrupt leaders imprisoned or exiled. A new order was emerging across the galaxy, one built on protection rather than exploitation. Earth had not sought to become a galactic power. They had not wanted war or conflict. But when their children were taken, humanity responded with absolute determination. They shattered an entire civilization. They defeated the Council fleet. They forced the galaxy to change. And they did it all for a simple reason. Because in the end, humans would sacrifice anything, break any enemy, and fight any war to protect their young. The galaxy had forgotten that primal truth. Earth made sure they remembered. The children kept playing, unaware of the vast changes their rescue had triggered. They laughed and ran and lived, and across the stars, in every corner of known space, the word spread. Earth protects its children, and if you threaten them, Earth will come for you with the fury of a species that has nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. The galaxy would never forget.